Hey guys, Aaron CybertronVGC here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online Series 1 VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be showcasing a really fun team centered around Hard Trick Room and Slowpoke. Now, you might be wondering, why in the world would anyone use Slowpoke over its evolutions, and the main idea behind this team is to take advantage of Slowpoke's very slow speed stat. And the general concept is that this team has a lot of strong attackers. You've got Weakness Policy Torkoal, Life Orb Storm Drain Gastrodon, as well as Absorb Bulb Arboliva. And the beautiful thing about Slowpoke is that it is able to outspeed all of those Pokemon under Trick Room. And so the idea is that you set up Trick Room and then use Surf to enable all of those attackers immediately, allowing you to really accelerate the pace of the battle and pick up some quick knockouts. And with the Hard Trick Room team, you really ideally want to win as quickly as possible. So as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down in the description below. And thank you so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. If you enjoy, would really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like on the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps me and the channel out a ton. So thanks so much as always for joining me, and let's talk about this team. First of all, a huge thank you to VGC for building and sharing this team. I've used many of their teams, including two really fun evolution teams in Sword and Shield, as well as a Belly Bolt team in Scarlet and Violet. So I'll link all of those videos down in the description below if you want to check them out, and Viking's Twitter is also down in the description below. In addition, there's a rental code up there as well as a paste, so if you want to try out the team, feel free to do it yourselves. And question of the day, I want to know what Eviolite user you think is underrated at the moment. Obviously, everyone's using Murkrow, but what other ones are out there that you think people should be trying out? Anyway, let's just get right into the team. The first Pokemon to talk about, of course, is Slowpoke. Now, like I mentioned, the main reason you're using Slowpoke over any other Trick Room user is because it's so slow. And so when you set up Trick Room, you're able to outspeed your own sweepers and enable them to deal even more damage. Torkoal here has Weakness Policy, Arboliva has the Absorb Bulb, and Gastrodon, of course, has Storm Drain. And Surf can activate all three of these Pokemon. So that's the main reason to use it. Oblivious is also a really nice ability because it prevents you from being taunted, which is a really big deal given the amount of taunts that exist in the format, and it allows you to just set up Trick Room a little bit easier. Now, the general idea behind this moveset is that you're going to use Trick Room to obviously control the speed. You're going to use Surf to enable and, set up these Pokemon as well as breaking through Focus Sashes. Heal Pulse is really nice just to continuously heal up these Pokemon because otherwise Slowpoke kind of just stays on the field and doesn't do very much. And then Sunny Day is just a means of weather control, which is valuable, especially into like rain teams. But sometimes you also just run out of sun turns with Torkoal. With this team, like Torkoal can hang on for a really long time, and you might even end up spending the entire sun while Torkoal's on the field. It expires, and then you can reset it with Slowpoke. Now, one of the things to note about this Pokemon is like its base stats are obviously not amazing, so even with Eviolite, it still can be a little bit frail into, say, super effective attacks. For example, Choice Specs Golden Go with Shadow Ball or Choice Specs Hydreigon with Dark Pulse you do have to worry about. I actually played a Glamora with Choice Specs, and Sludge Bomb did 60-70% to us, and so keep that in mind, right? The Slowpoke can still take a lot of damage, especially from the special side, but one benchmark to note is that this will always survive Life Orb, Timid Hydreigon, Dark Pulse, and so consider special attacking moves that are super effective and are stronger than that, you'll want to really be careful about. But Water Terra can help you get around that. Now, Slowpoke also is going to set up Trick Room, and the best way to do that is with Hariyama or Indeedee. So with Hariyama, you can pressure with Fake Out immediately and then just set up Trick Room. This is just a Guts Flame Orb set. Wide Guard's really nice for utility, and then Knockoff does really good damage, especially into things like Golden Go as well as Armourouge and Indeedee, for example. And so, yeah, Hariyama, Slowpoke, Fake Out into Trick Room. The one downside with this combo is that sometimes the Hariyama sticks on the field for a little bit longer than you'd like, and sometimes you want the free switching into one of your attackers in the back. And that's where the Indeedee comes in handy. This Indeedee has eject button, so it synergizes really nicely with Slowpoke. You can often just lead Indeedee Slowpoke, and with the eject button, your opponents will often KO the Indeedee or force it out, allowing you to get a free switch in immediately into one of your attackers. I often find myself going Indeedee Slowpoke, switch into Torkoal, and then just Surf into Terra, Weakness Policy Eruption, and just pick up knockouts very quickly with that. And the reality is that with this Torkoal set, if you're at +2 with Fire and the Sun, being up, even Pokemon that resist it will often be taking 50, 60, 70% plus. And you can actually even get one-hit knockouts onto Pokemon that have no bulk and that resist it, which I think is kind of a wild benchmark to think about. But the nice thing about the Indeedee here is it solves for the problem of leading two passive Pokemon and then not getting a free switch into your Trick Room sweepers immediately. So yeah, the Indeedee here notably also has Healing Wish. I haven't really used that much in my time with the team, but it just gives you the ability to, potentially conserve Indeedee, find value with it in the late game where, let's say it's gotten ejected out on turn 1, you can bring it back out and then just Healing Wish. Fairy Terra is also nice to get around potential super effective hits, especially from Dark Pokemon, for example. So yeah, but Hariyama Slowpoke and Indeedee Slowpoke are my main default leads with this team. To round out the team, you've got the Fire Terra Torkoal, really standard moveset here. Do keep in mind that because you're running Eruption and Heat Wave, you don't have like a single target fire type attack, and so like Wide Guard can be kind of annoying, but Earth Power can help you get around that, and Fire Terra just to maximize your damage output. Arboliva here is just max HP, max special attack with Absorb Bulb. And the idea, once again, is that you can serve to activate Weakness Policy, or sorry, the Absorb Bulb here, as well as setting up the Seed Sower. And then so you can get a really surprising Terrain Pulse in, grass against Pokemon that don't expect it. And it's just really valuable into Water-type Pokemon in particular, which obviously Torkoal and Gastrodon don't love going up against. I mean, I guess Gastrodon likes going up against Water-type Pokemon, but it's not necessarily like doing large amounts of damage against those Pokemon, whereas Arboliva can pressure it with damage. You've also got Strength Sap here, which is a unique move in terms of recovery and also lowering your opponent's attack, which can be quite handy into things like Dondozo, for example. Gastrodon's the final Pokemon here, and the main thing I'd call out is that it doesn't have Earth Power. It actually has Clear Smog, which is valuable into Dondozo matchups, because there are times where you can just Clear Smog, basically get rid of Dondozo's boosts and then just really, set up with Gastrodon or just deal large amounts of damage with Torkoal or Arboliva. And so I have actually missed Earth Power often while using this, since that's one of the things where I think you can go either way. I actually don't click Recover very much with this, because Slowpoke ends up heal pulsing Gastrodon a lot. But yeah, the idea is that you can just deal a lot of damage within the Fire Terra. It gets around the Grass weakness as well. So the general idea in using this team is find a good lead for Slowpoke to set up Trick Room, set up the Trick Room, and then figure out what your best path to victory is. I prioritize Torkoal most of the time because this thing just does so much damage, and there are very few Pokemon that can actually wall this. Like, I'm mainly maybe not going to prioritize Torkoal if everything on my opponent's team resists fire, or they have like Flash Fire Pokemon, for example. But otherwise, this is a really good go-to, and then I normally flex between one of Arboliva and Gastrodon. So yeah, that's it for a breakdown. Let's quickly talk about some weaknesses. So in terms of weaknesses, the first thing I'll call out is that this is a hard Trick Room team. If you do not get Trick Room up, you will very likely lose the game. And so when you think about counters to Trick Room, the first thing is actually Imprison plus Trick Room. There are other ways to deny Trick Room, but since Slowpoke has the Oblivious, Taunt does not actually work as a solution, and with Indeedee having the terrain control as well, it's pretty hard to actually deny, for example, Trick Room if Indeedee and Slowpoke is led. So one of the first things you can do is have Imprison. Imprison plus Trick Room for Farigiraf in particular is something that can be quite annoying that I've run into. You can also have your own Trick Room to reverse Trick Room, and so one of the toughest matchups I've had while using this team is Armor Rouge, and that's because Armor Rouge pressures with Trick Room, but could also pressure with Wide Guard as well as a potential Grass Terra, and Armor Rouge in particular is really annoying because the Torkoal here just is completely walled by it, especially if it's like Grass Terra, for example. And so opposing Trick Room Pokemon that can just reverse your Trick Room can be really annoying as well, because often you're going to have to make some sacrifices to actually get Trick Room up, right? Often I'm actually like just losing Indeedee to get a free switch in immediately, or Hariyama's eating up a ton of damage in order to get Trick Room up on turn 1. And so yeah, being able to just outright deny Trick Room or reverse it is already a pretty big problem. That's the first thing I'd call out. The second thing I'd mention is that this team does use so many spread moves, right? Like Torkoal has Eruption and Heat Wave, Arboliva has Hyper Voice, Gastrodon has Muddy Water, and so Wide Guard in itself can cause some problems, or even just the pressure of it. Like, even if your opponent doesn't click it, if they have a Pokemon that has Wide Guard, I know when I fight against them, I already think twice, oh shoot, should I actually click my spread moves, right? And so some examples are Garganacl. I actually ran into a Stonejourner, which I was really worried about. And so any Pokemon with Wide Guard can cause you some problems, and so keep that in mind as well. I think the third thing to kind of highlight is, you have to ideally win games fairly quickly. Like, ideally, you'll have won the game essentially after your couple turns of Trick Room, or had, gained such a big lead that your opponent just can't really realistically come back. And so defensive teams like can stall out Trick Room can be pretty tough to go up against, right? And a good defensive Terra can also really stop you. One of the things I also ran into, for example, in one game that I played for practice, I led Indeedee Slowpoke, and like setup on turn 1 is really interesting when you go up against this duel, like intentionally not damaging either Pokemon, because then it puts me in a tricky position where I have to decide on turn 2, do I just make the switch or hope that my opponent targets me? For example, there was a game where my opponent just led Farigiraf plus Annihilate, and they actually went for like a bulk up immediately with the Annihilate, and then Farigiraf also was just able to reverse my Trick Room, putting me in a really awkward position going into turn 2. I also had a game where my opponent just Swords Danced up with Garchomp, then I brought out Torkoal. Eruption, even with the Weakness Policy combo, was not able to KO Garchomp, and then Garchomp just Earthquaked me to KO me in return. So really bulky Pokemon that are invested enough where they can even survive a +2 Eruption can be really scary, because then Torkoal, like, when you go with the Torkoal combo, a lot of your eggs are just going all in on the Torkoal basket. And so, yeah, that's another thing that I've run into. And then finally, there are some Pokemon that, of course, can one-shot Slowpoke, and if you lead poorly, you might just lose the game. For example, I've had games where it's like Hariyama plus Slowpoke, but then my opponent has like Golden Go plus another Pokemon that is immune to Fake Out, whether it be like Inner Focus Dragonite. Then you can double up and pressure Slowpoke immediately. I think if you force Slowpoke to defensively Terra, it also means I can't Terra with any of the other Pokemon in the back, and Torkoal really loves, getting Terra off with it. And so, yeah, Pokemon that can threaten Slowpoke with super effective damage can already be pretty scary, especially things like Choice Specs Golden Go or Choice Specs Hydreigon, for example. I've also ran into just like random combos, for example, games where I led Indy Slowpoke and my opponent has like Discharge, for example, plus Earthquake, right? That can be a problem because then like Indy gets ejected out, Torkoal comes out, and then Slowpoke kind of just, eats up both hits and might just even faint. So you have to be very careful in figuring out how you want to lead and whether or not you want to commit to Hariyama Slowpoke or Indy Slowpoke. And those aren't the only two leads with the team, but they're just the most common ones. And so, yeah. Those are a couple of the main things I'd call out. Otherwise, if I had to pick a certain Pokemon that I really hate fighting against with this team, it's definitely Armarouge. I think Armarouge just caused me so many problems in Team Preview, and just trying to play around it in Team Preview alone is difficult, especially because against Armarouge, I feel compelled to go Hariyama Slowpoke and Dark Terra immediately. And I've had a lot of games where my opponent is Armarouge in Team Preview, and they don't even end up bringing it, so then I commit my Terra and just kind of waste it, and then they're able to use the rest of their team to kind of clean through me. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it for the team. Let's finally get into some battles. Alright, we got Stonejourner, Golden Goal, Volcarona, Azumarill, Murkrow, and Dragonite. I know that Marco Fierro, a really good player from Europe, used Stonejourner to get very high up in the ladder the last ranked season. I think it was like with Choice Specs Golden Goal and Choice Band Dragonite, if I remember correctly. So the general approach, I think, is ideally to set up Trick Room. Torkoal's really solid here. Does have to worry about a couple resists as well as potential wide guard from Stonejourner, though. I think I'm mainly worried about the Specs Golden Go. So against Specs Golden Go, I could wide guard, but it could also just Shadow Ball Slowpoke. I think I'm done for just the Indy Slowpoke lead here, Torkoal in the back, and then for the last one, I don't think Arboliva's that good. Hariyama's decent, Gastrodon's very solid. I'll bring Gastrodon here, I think. The one awkward thing about Gastrodon in this matchup is that I don't have Earth Power, so I can't really hit Golden Go for as much as I'd like, but Torkoal should pressure it a good amount. General idea here is that I like leading Indeedee plus Slowbro the most, just because Follow Me plus Trick Room is, I would say, relatively safe. Even if we sacrifice Indeedee, if it's a free switch into Torkoal, I think that's worth it. They're going to go with Dragonite and Volcarona, which I'm okay with. Yeah, so this is definitely just Follow Me into Trick Room turn 1. Setting up Psychic Surge here is also quite nice because it prevents extreme speed from Dragonite. So, yeah, let's just go for it. Trick Room. Follow Me. Then we're going to bring out Torkoal, Surf, probably Terra Torkoal, and then just Eruption as well. So I don't mind this lead too much. I think the main thing I was worried about was like Stonejourner because of the threat of Wide Guard. Okay, Volcarona opts for Struggle Bug here. Ooh, I guess that's a little bit awkward. The Volcarona is actually faster than Dragonite because that means I get ejected out immediately. Okay, we'll see who they end up targeting. I think I still do want to go into Torkoal first. Yeah. I'm mainly worried about like a, random like Choice Band Outrage right now. I think Dragon Claw we should survive with either Pokemon. It's going to be Dragon Claw. Okay, Slowpoke takes that like a champ. Nice. Honestly, that wasn't too bad then. That turn could have been a lot worse. I was just worried about switching Torkoal in immediately, but now I can just go for Surf, Terra, Eruption. Yeah, I think I'm content with that. And then I can just start heal pulsing the Torkoal after this turn as well. So this is kind of the ideal setup for the team. And with Struggle Bug from Volcarona. I mean, Volcarona can't really do too much to stop this combo. I don't know if it's Inner Focus or Multi-Skill Dragonite, but one of the nice things about Surf is, breaking through things like Multi-Skill as well as Focus Sash. So we're just going to Terra here, optimize our offensive potential. The other thing I'd consider terroring is going to be Gastrodon, right? But I don't think it's really that worth it for us here. Ah, they're going to go for a Terra of their own. Okay. What is it going to be? Terra Volcarona, huh? Into Water Volk. That's really cool. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Very good defensively. Okay, neither Pokemon Protect nor Switch. There's Surf. Essentially does no damage to anyone here. A little bit into Torkoal, but activates the Weakness Policy. So this is +2 Fire Terra boosted, Sun boosted Eruption at nearly full HP. So let's see how much damage this does. Almost gets the knockout onto Bolt. We fall just short, though. They're going to Dragon Claw into Torkoal for not too much, honestly, and then just Struggle Bug. Okay, perfect. And Slowpoke even survives that. Beautiful. So while we didn't get the knockout onto either, that's totally okay, because I'm just another Eruption away from KOing, and Slowpoke has been so good in this game, surviving so many hits, and now I'm able to just actually Heal Pulse the Torkoal back up. And we're still at +1 special attack, so it's fine to just Heal Pulse an Eruption here. They can't have any priority here, so we'll be able to slowly just get Torkoal back up. Dragonite switches here into Azumarill. That's totally fine. This is where having Heal Pulse is so nice. Because my opponent's probably thinking, hey, Torkoal's not really that scary anymore, right? But nope. We're going to be almost all the way back to full HP after this. And this is still +1 Eruption, right? And, like, my opponent's entire team essentially resists Torkoal right now, but there is really no, like, true resistance to this as we knock out the Volcarona there. Excellent. Shoutouts to Slowpoke for surviving so many hits, though. It took 2 super effective Struggle Bugs as well as the Dragon Claw from the Dragonite. So, we obviously are pretty well positioned right now. I think that's Assault Vest Azumarill, given how little Eruption did and how much we did to all the other Pokemon. The nice thing is that with the Gastrodon in the back, I can redirect any potential Water-type attacks away from Azumarill. Also, the sun is just up right now, so it's hard for them to break through this. Terrain is still up as well, which is beneficial for me. 2 turns of Trick Room left. One play I could make here is to Heal Pulse and just get the little bit of HP back. I actually wonder if that's enough to get a knockout onto Azumarill. The other is to just pivot Slowpoke out into Gastrodon and Eruption. I think I'm okay with that. Like, Azumarill really shouldn't be able to do too much to Torkoal with the Storm Drain pressure. Like, the only tempting thing was getting a little bit of recovery there so that Eruption's just a double knockout from that position. But this is exactly what this team aims to do. So I'm very happy to feature this in our first match. I honestly wonder if the little bit of HP recovery would have been enough to KO Azumarill. I'm curious. And they go for Liquidation. Beautiful. It's one of those scenarios, though, where it's like, I know I have one more turn of Trick Room, and I know that Slowpoke isn't going to do anything for me on the last turn, so I might as well at least get Gastrodon in and apply a little bit more pressure, right? And Murkrow's their final one. Cool. I think this game shows, though, how, like, you don't really have resistances to Torkoal, right? They had 3 Pokemon that resisted my attacks, and we essentially 2-shot almost all of them with Eruption, with the +2 combo. So, you can just clear Smog Azumarill here and Eruption. Yeah. Murkrow in the back was interesting. I think I was mainly worried about, like, late game Golden Go, for example. Stonejourner not coming out is actually really good for me as well, because I think Wide Guard is one of the biggest counters you can have to this team. And so if you bring Stonejourner, you know, threaten with Wide Guard. Even if you don't actually have it, I at least would assume you would. And so, yeah, that not making an appearance made things easier as well. But ultimately, it was just them not being able to deny Trick Room, and then Torkoal plus the Heal Pulse just going so well for us. So, yeah, we already featured so much of Slowpoke's value, right? Being able to serve to activate Torkoal, being able to Trick Room, and then being able to heal ourselves up with it as well. And then you can see the synergy with Indeedee, where with that eject button, I get the Torkoal in, basically, right? Which is really nice. The one scary thing there is, for example, if Dragon Claw went into Torkoal on turn 1, then turn 2, I'd probably have to go for, like, Heal Pulse, maybe, and then Heal Pulse Eruption, then maybe Surf Eruption the next turn. But since Dragon Claw got targeted into the Slowpoke slot, we were really well positioned, and Slowpoke is just really bulky with that Eviolite. So we get to pull off the Slowpoke Torkoal combo here, and I couldn't be any happier. Okay, our next match here, we've got Golden Go, Farigiraf, Garchomp, Meowscarada, Hydreigon, and Murkrow. It's generally fairly hyper offensive. I am really worried about Farigiraf, though, because that has the potential to have Imprison plus Trick Room. And that's one of the easiest ways to shut this team down. So let's assume it is Imprison plus Trick Room. How do I get around it? The other thing we could do is just play with the assumption that they just don't have Imprisoned Trick Room and basically go all in hoping for that. But I think that's not a great assumption. I think one interesting thing is like we can actually use Slowpoke to just like Terra Gastrodon immediately, Slowpoke Surf, and then just start attacking with Gastrodon. Arboliva is actually pretty interesting offensively as well. The main thing is I can't fake out very easily thanks to Farigiraf's potential ability. I mean, Gastrodon's actually incredible offensively here. I just wish we had Earth Power in this case, but... I think I'm going to go... Hariyama, Gastrodon, Slowpoke, Torkoal. Basically, I'm just going to pressure with early damage here because I expect them to potentially have a counter to Trick Room. But if I get Trick Room up at any point, I actually think like Slowpoke plus Torkoal can just win me the end game. So like normally with using this team, I almost always lead Slowpoke, but I'm really worried about Trick Room Imprison for Farigiraf. And they lead that, yeah, with Meowscarada. Cool. So basically the logic behind my lead here on turn 1 is I can Terra Gastrodon immediately, right? Into fire, so I'm not as worried about damage output from Meowscarada. I can potentially look to just double up onto Farigiraf here, which is what I think I'm going to do here. My only fear is like how easy can I... It might be actually better to try to KO Slowpoke, or sorry, KO Meowscarada, because this doesn't threaten me with as much damage. Yeah, especially given that I have Slowpoke in the back. So I'm going to knock off Terra, Ice Beam. Try to KO Meowscarada. Then I turn 2, I can double up onto Farigiraf potentially. But the thing is, by KOing Meowscarada, I grant them a free switch in. Fire Terra against helps here, but then now Garchomp's Earthquake is super effective against me. Specs Hydreigon with Draco Meteor is also pretty scary. So, it's tough. Okay, they just go for knockoff. That looked like choice band damage to me. Ooh, and they have Psychic as well. Okay, that's not ideal. Yeah, it's a ton of damage immediately. The upside is I should KO Meowscarada here with this double up, but no, that wasn't even banded. Wow, knockoff just does that much. And in the end, my Terra kind of ends up being wasted as well, so great play by my opponent turn 1. Like, there is a chance they just straight up don't have Imprisoned Trick Room on Farigiraf, right? I'm operating under that assumption. And this is where, like, my Terra actually probably is going to end up working against me. I can't protect with either Pokemon right now, which is also tricky. And then Garchomp comes out. I mean, I want to switch into Slowpoke here. And just Ice Beam. Farigiraf switches, though. So now I actually potentially have the ability to get Trick Room up. Wait, this is a big deal. Okay, especially with Hydreigon coming in. Yeah, so... Oh, I could have Wide Guarded. Wait, Wide Guard Ice Beam would have maybe just been better. We'll see. Yeah, they just Earthquake. Okay. But like I mentioned, I think if I can get Trick Room up in this game, we can win. It's a lot of damage. I think the problem here is they could just switch, for example, Garchomp now into Farigiraf to block Fake Out this next turn. This is where me committing the Terra with Gastrodon just did not benefit me at all. That was a great knockoff for them. I mean, if I were expecting to switch into Farigiraf, what would I do? Switch Slowpoke out into Torkoal. They also don't have Life Orb on Hydreigon, so if it's not Specs, maybe I can survive. Alright, I'm just going to fake a Hydreigon Trick Room, but they switch, yeah. Farigiraf, like, just the threat of it alone was bad enough for me here. I wish I could have confirmed whether or not I had Imprisoned Trick Room. In best of 1, like a closed team sheet, it's just so hard to say. Yeah, and they Dark Pulse here. Yeah, and Slowpoke faints. Basically, like, I didn't really have a way around this because, of course, I could switch out into Torkoal and then close combat Hydreigon, but then I just don't have speed control, right? So, Maybe I should have just led Slowpoke here and kind of, you know, forced them to answer the question, hey, do you actually have the Imprison? But I would really guess that they do, given the way that their team composition looks, right? So, what else could I have done here? Arboliva would have been an okay lead, I guess. It's really tough, though, because, like, Farigiraf, like, not only had the potential of Imprison Trick Room, but it also had Psychic for my Hariyama, so Hariyama became a little bit less effective. So, yeah. I mean, that game basically just highlights how if we don't get Trick Room up, things can be an absolute nightmare. And, like, just, if you look at Farigiraf on that team composition, it just screams to me Imprison Trick Room, because otherwise, like, Trick Room is a really tough matchup for them. So my idea was to maybe try to get rid of Farigiraf early, but then the Meowscarada was led, and I was like, okay, if Meowscarada's out here, then I'm also worried about what that can do into Slowpoke. So the problem is, yeah, maybe I could have doubled up onto the Farigiraf on turn 1. I probably still needed to, like, because if I at least eliminate Farigiraf, I have Torkoal plus Slowpoke in the back. The Fire Terra was also not great, but they did a great job playing around it, right? Like, they didn't go for Flower Trick. They just went for knockoff on turn 1. Because, like, I could have definitely had a better Terra in that game as well. Like, potentially defensively tearing Slowpoke could have saved me in that endgame, for example. So, yeah. Imprison, or even just the threat of it, is a nightmare, especially in best of 1. And given my opponent's team composition, like, I just assumed that was the case. And it's, yeah, not exactly super easy to play around. But my opponent also did a great job, like, leading Farigiraf, and I thought the Meowscarada Farigiraf lead in particular was very excellent from their end. So, kudos. Okay, we've got Sylveon, Talonflame, Hydreigon, Meowscarada, Maushold, and Vaporeon for this one. Vaporeon is generally used as a Dondozo counter, so that's why it's on their team. If I want to lead Slowpoke, what's my best lead best way to get Trick Room up? I think Slowpoke and Indeedee feels okay. Hariyama might feel a little bit better here. The only worry is if they go with, like, double Grass lead of Hydreigon plus... Sorry, double Dark lead with Hydreigon plus Meowscarada. That lead is pretty scary. Because this feels like if we get Trick Room up, Torkoal should just sweep, in my opinion. I also want to bring Arboliva out into this one. If they go with the double Dark lead, I could go for Indeedee, Follow Me, Terra, Slowpoke. It's like, Hariyama's so good offensively here, though, so I do want to bring it. Okay. I'll go Hariyama, Slowpoke, Torkoal, plus Gastrodon. Basically, our goal is to sweep with Torkoal. A +2 Torkoal Terra should KO everything other than Vaporeon. I wonder if actually there was an argument to bring Gastrodon then just to give Torkoal a little bit more protection against the Vaporeon. But I think Arboliva's pretty cool here, right? Hyper Voice is really solid into the entire team. And if they activate Terrain on our end, we can Terrain Pulse into the Vaporeon, which I think is also pretty sweet. And it's also just Absorb Bulb Arboliva. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? So, let's see. But, yeah, I think, like, it's going to be a pretty clear fake-out Trick Room here. The main decision is whether or not I want to Terra Slowpoke. Maushold, Meowscarada. Okay. I think I'm just going to Trick Room here and then fake out into Meowscarada. That works for me. Okay, Meowscarada just protects. I mean, that's fine. I don't think Population Bomb should KO Slowpoke, and if they one-shot... Oh, they just double protect. That is super ideal for me. Okay, sweet. Beautiful. Okay, I would think that puts me in an incredible position, honestly, because now I can... I mean, I can do a bunch of different things, but... I'm honestly happy just clicking Close Combat into the Maushold and Surf to break a potential Sash on Meowscarada right now. Just think about whether or not they have any switch-ins. They don't. Like, Sylveon's the only switch-in, even that it's not really that strong. Yeah, Close Combat Surf here works. Oh, you know, they could... Is this Ghost-type Maushold? Should have thought about that. Yeah, I think that's what's coming my way. Well done. That was the one thing that could counter me here. Knockoff would have been fine, or Close Combat into Meowscarada. They go for Follow Me. Okay. That was an awesome play. Yeah, nicely done. And Flower Trick. Knock off. Okay, makes sense. To be honest, I'm still fine with this positioning. It's just like I should have been able to sweep through this team really quickly given the circumstances. But now I'm down to Surf and switch out into Torkoal. But it's like I'll have spent so many turns of Trick Room, right? That was a great Ghost Terra plus the Follow Me. I love the Follow Me play there because it covers for me close combating into Meowscarada. The only way I could have gotten around that was clicking Knockoff into Mouse Hold. I also think I could have just switched Hariyama out into Torkoal last turn and just gone for Surf. But I don't know. I was worried about them just clicking Population Bomb into the Torkoal slot, for example. But they very, you know, likely could do that this turn. But I wouldn't be surprised if they just double protect again. If they double protect again and I get this Torkoal out, they're going to be in really bad shape, I think. But that was a really, really good Ghost Terra for Mouse Hold. So nice find. Because I think otherwise Hariyama sweeps their team way too quickly. And that's exactly what you need to do in order to try to beat hard Trick Room teams like this. But Mousehold starts off with Protect, which is good to see. Great. Perfect. Okay. So they double Protect. Now I'm very well positioned because I can just pressure with Eruption this next turn, right? I think I'm going to Eruption. I'm also going to switch Slowpoke out into Hariyama so I can pressure with Fake Out. Oh, actually, there's an interesting debate in not switching out Hariyama immediately. Because we expect them to protect anyway, so if I can bring out Hariyama on the last turn of Trick Room when they go for a double protect, then I can fake out the subsequent turn as soon as Trick Room ends. So I actually don't want to bring out Hariyama right now, I think. I'll go to Arboliva. Arboliva, we don't need a Terra here, let's just Eruption. I guess going for a Terra would cover for them switching out into Vaporeon or Talonflame. But I like the idea of potentially conserving my Terra on Arboliva. Although in hindsight, I actually do think it was correct to Terra here because this turn is so crucial in the battle, but... I also thought about Heal Pulsing, but Mousehold could redirect that away with the Follow Me. Let's also think about what they potentially have in the back, right? Vaporeon, not that scary. Sylveon, not that scary into Torkoal. Neither of those are really major threats in my opinion. Either way, though, we'll switch Slowpoke out first. Arboliva now hits the field. Okay, they don't switch out either. Beautiful. This should just be a double KO then. Excellent. And now this is what I'm saying. Like, my opponent's most likely going to be incentivized to double protect with the Pokemon that they're bringing out. And to counteract that, I can switch Arboliva out into Hariyama and then click Fake Out into one of the two Pokemon as soon as Trick Room ends. Now, I have to keep in mind that Slowpoke no longer has Eviolite, and so it will likely just go down to any one other attack. It's actually Talonflame coming out with Vaporeon. Oh, interesting. They just don't have offense at this point, really, right? Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty tough for them to win from this position. Vaporeon could clear Smog into Torkoal as you Brave Bird, but then you really don't have enough offense to beat everything here. Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of down to just Hyper Voice here. Talonflame should protect here, in my opinion. Talonflame should protect. And if they don't protect, they'll just faint. So I'll bring out Hariyama, Fire Terra, Eruption. You know what? Actually, I don't want a Terra here. I'm just going to go for regular Eruption. I think conserving my Terra for Arboliva or Hariyama is more worthwhile in this endgame. Especially because Arboliva should beat Vaporeon. Okay, they just offer Brave Bird. Cool, that works. Into Torkoal. Maybe Heat Wave would have been better for me there then. Still +2 Eruption at around half health though. It's not bad. It's actually Ice Beam. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that works. Trick Room expires. I should have thought about Brave Bird into Torkoal. I feel like I tunnel vision too hard onto thinking they're always going to target the Hariyama slot there. I'm down to just Fake Out into Vaporeon here, though, and click Heat Wave. If they don't have Protect here, then I think the game is over. If they double Protect, things get a little bit more interesting, but it's only Vaporeon protecting, so as long as Torkoal doesn't Heat Wave into the Talonflame, we should be good. And I went for Fake Out into Vaporeon just because I know I can survive another Brave Bird from Talonflame right now, and they target Hariyama. Excellent. And, like, I'm okay playing this endgame against Vaporeon given the Arboliva in the back. Okay. Here's Heat Wave. And it does not miss. Excellent. And this is the nature of, like, hard Trick Room, right? My opponent's team is pretty fast-paced. They don't really have too many great ways to, like, slowly stall out Trick Room. Vaporeon would have been their best bet. So I'll bring out Arboliva. And I think with Arboliva, given that they've revealed Ice Beam, I am just going to simply Terra this to get around fainting to it, and then Terrain Pulse. Plus Heat Wave. Earth Power can't miss here. Let's go for Earth Power. I'm curious if Vaporeon Terras, but no Terra to start here. Okay. I mean, Arboliva is just cool on this team because it's really nice into a lot of those Water-type Pokemon that otherwise give Torkoal trouble. Gastrodon, Vaporeon. It's decent into Dondozo teams as well. Nice. There's Ice Beam. Beautiful. We only take 40 damage. That sets up the grassy terrain, and that is one thing that's really fun about this team. As now, we get the Terrain Pulse boosted by the grassy terrain to KO Vaporeon. So, glad I could feature Arboliva here. Didn't really get the, Absorb Bulb combination off in this one, but yeah. I think ultimately, my opponent didn't have too much to deny me Trick Room. The main thing I was worried about, like I mentioned, I think was like the double Dark lead, Hydreigon plus Meowscarada. But as soon as that didn't come out, I felt pretty good about the position. Great defensive Terra with the... Oh, I also was thinking like they didn't Terra in that game, but yeah, Mousehole Terra'd early on. But yeah, great defensive Terra to keep themselves in it. I think Vaporeon maybe needed to hit the field a little bit earlier though, especially when it was Mousehole plus Meowscarada. Like you could maybe switch in Vaporeon there. I think that game also highlights one of the weaknesses of Talonflame. It just doesn't really do that much damage. It's actually really good into the team that I have here, given the Hariyama and the Arboliva, but it's just relatively frail and can't clean up games that easily either. So, yeah. Either way, let's look for one last one. Oh, boy. Another Farigiraf. Sylveon, Rotom, King Gambit, Meowscarada, and Arcanine. It's funny because, like, Armarouge is a Pokemon I struggle against a lot with this team as well, and I expected to see more of those than Farigirafs here, but let's see how we can play around it. I guess this one I'm also not sure they'll actually have Imprison. I'm honestly kind of down for a NDD Slowpoke lead here. Torkoal in the back. Gastrodon would allow me to wall Rotom, give me some good protection for Torkoal. Hariyama's honestly really good offensively into this matchup. What does Torkoal not want to fight against here? Arcanine plus the Rotom? Yeah, given that, I feel like I should be bringing Gastrodon. So, yeah, like, if the second game today indicated anything, what gives me trouble with this team is like if you can deny Trick Room, right? And in that second game, I had so much fear, I just straight up did not even bother bringing or trying to, like, I just assumed they had Imprison. Now, in this game, I actually don't think Imprison is as likely because, like, it actually makes sense for their team to utilize Trick Room, and they're a little bit slower and bulkier. So, I'm not going to operate under the assumption that they have Imprison plus Trick Room. I do think they'll have Trick Room, though. So it adds another layer of complexity because they could use their Trick Room to just reverse mine. And part of the problem with the NDD Slowpoke lead is that it's really passive. If I don't get Trick Room up, or I'm sacrificing NDD and they reverse my Trick Room, I just lose a Pokemon for nothing, right? And they do have multiple Pokemon that can threaten NDD, multiple Dark-type Pokemon like Meowscarada, as well as the King Gambit. Yeah, it's Arcanine Farigiraf. Okay. So the first debate is, do I click Trick Room here? Like, I think I'm still down for it. I'm down to just Psychic into Arcanine and Trick Room here. And if they have Imprison or reverse it, so be it. But the good thing is that Arcanine actually doesn't apply that much offensive pressure. So even if they were to have a strong turn 1, I actually don't think I'm in terrible shape going into turn 2. But the potential Trick Room reversal here certainly scares me. Arcanine actually switches, maybe into a Dark type. Ah, it's actually into Rotom. Okay. I don't mind that. NDD just starts off the game with the Psychic here. Solid damage. Calm Mind. Okay. That is scary. And they can also reverse my Trick Room this next turn. Oh, man. Calm Mind is definitely not what I expected to see there. Huh. I honestly kind of want to just go into Torkoal here immediately and surf. I don't know. That's pretty risky, isn't it? If I were them, I would protect Rotom and then reverse Trick Room with Farigiraf. Calm Mind is sick. I have not really run into that before. That actually, like, is so good into what we're using here. Okay. So with Calm Mind, I really don't think they have Imprison, but... the Rotom didn't protect either. I mean, they probably didn't feel the need to because Psychic did less than 50% that first time around, right? Okay. So I get the boost, but do I even survive this turn? Okay, they go for another Calm Mind, but that's pretty critical. Like, I'm happy seeing that over, like, I don't know, a Trick Room reversal. They actually were reading the Slowpoke to switch out there. Okay. Hey, I'll take that turn. I will take that turn because now I can actually... I've boosted up Torkoal. I can Terra, Eruption, and Heal Pulse. Yeah, let's just go all in. I'm just curious about all of Farigiraf's other attacks. Like, do they even have Trick Room? Because if so, I thought reversing Trick Room last turn would have made a lot of sense. Okay. Farigiraf protects. Okay, I'm okay with that. So protect, Calm Mind is all we've seen so far. Rotom actually commits a protect as well. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to switch Slowpoke out this next turn. Can't help but wonder if I just switched in previously where I'd be. It actually might be smarter to stay in here, to be honest. I can Heal Pulse Torkoal continuously. Because I think Eruption should 2-hit knock out everything on their team right now. Double check the field state. 2 turns of Trick Room left. I'm definitely clicking Eruption here. The question is what I want to do with Slowpoke. If I bring in Gastrodon, I can clear Smog Pressure them. If I switch in Indeedee, I might just get ejected out, so I don't think I should make that switch. Okay, I'm going to go Eruption and go into Gastrodon here. Apply a little bit more pressure because I would like to angle to set up a second Trick Room with Slowpoke. But I think it's too passive right now. Although, I don't know. I think like staying in and continuously Heal Pulsing is actually a fine strategy as well. They're not going to make any switches, so we get the Eruption off. Oh, nice. I really thought Farigiraf was actually going to hang on from that, but given that that was enough for a KO, I think we're in the clear here. Farigiraf is my nightmare, though, especially after our second match against it today. That's Meowscarada. And Arcanine's coming back out. I mean, they have no Torkoal answer at this point. Right? Last turn of Trick Room here. I've already Terra'd. I'm down to just click Eruption into a switch. No, it's fine. I think Eruption plus Muddy Water here is okay. Yeah, I don't think they can beat Torkoal from this angle. Cool. That was pretty scary, but I think the main thing is that their Farigiraf either did not have Trick Room or they just never went for it. I think a Trick Room reversal would have worked out really well in their favor, but we saw Calm Mind protect, Hyper Voice presumably, and then a 4th attack. Maybe it was just double offense for Farigiraf, which is really interesting. But yeah, Calm Mind was really scary, but the main thing is that we were able to get Torkoal in for free that one turn. Sometimes you just have to make those calls and make those switches, and by getting Torkoal in for free, we were super well positioned. So yeah, that was pretty fast though, so I'll look for one final game here. Okay, I am kind of glad to go up against an Armarouge team here because Armarouge has given me a ton of trouble while using this, so I'm excited to see how to play around it. This team was actually the team that finished 3rd of the last ranked season, built by one of the top Japanese players, and it is Choice Scarf Flip Turn, I believe, into Weakness Policy Weak Armor Armarouge, which is actually a really big deal. Knowing that alone means I have a little bit more room to operate with Torkoal. I don't remember if they had Wide Guard on that set, though. If I want to get Trick Room up, Slowpoke and Indeedee is fairly effective. I do actually often go with Hariyama, but if I go with Indeedee, Prevents the flip turn stuff. I could also bring Gastrodon in the back, which I think actually Gastrodon is a must bring in this matchup in my opinion. So it's going to be Slowpoke plus 1 of Hariyama and Indeedee, and then Gastrodon and Torkoal in the back. I'm not bringing Arboliva here because I think it's really bad into what I think is their best Pokemon in the Armor Rouge. I'll go with Hariyama here. With Gastrodon Torkoal in the back. If they lead Palafin plus Armor Rouge, turn 1, I can just pivot the Gastrodon in for Storm Drain. I know the general idea behind the team, but I don't remember the specific Armor Rouge set, and I think that's one of the hardest things about fighting against Armor Rouge with this team. I'm often worried about, like, are you Grass Terra? Are you Dark Terra? Do you have Terra Blast or Energy Ball, for example? But they go with Garchomp and Salamence. Okay. I'm generally okay with this. I think it's probably just a fake out Trick Room turn 1. Although this is where I think Indeedee actually may have served me a little bit better. Fake out into Garchomp. I think it was... Was it Dragon Dance Salamence? Don't remember. I thought it was. Okay, they dual Weemby. Honestly, I want them to KO me here. They do. Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's great, because it gives me a free switch into Gastrodon. I can just start surfing plus attacking with it. The burning desire to just go into Torkoal and Terra with it. It's not a bad idea, but I think I can get Gastrodon to like +2, +3 special attack in this game. So let's just bring it out. We're going to surf here. Ice Beam is so strong to both here, but I think like a Terra makes sense, a Switch makes sense. Gastrodon is not really that threatened by Garchomp right now. And I'm worried about... if they defensive Terra, I don't even think a double KOs Gastrodon. I'm still down to pressure Garchomp here. Oh, beautiful. They don't protect Terra or Switch. That is the absolute best case scenario for me. Okay. That is so good, because I just cleared what I think is the biggest threat to my Torkoal. And, like, Salamence isn't doing that much damage, right? Like, yeah, you can dual Wing Beat or Dragon Claw me, but I can just heal that back up with a Heal Pulse or Recover. 188 to 78. So that did 110. Honestly, really good damage. I think what's scary now is if they bring out Indeedee, you do pressure me like Helping Hand plus Dragon Claw. No, but you can't Helping Hand. You have to follow me. Palafin comes out. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm content just clicking Heal Pulse here. Palafin is really bad into Gastrodon, to be honest, so I'll Heal Pulse Ice Beam. I think Salamence defensively Terra's here. Terra on Gastrodon doesn't really do anything for me right now anyway. I also think it's very realistic I get a second Trick Room up in this game. And if I get a second Trick Room up, we are in very good shape. Yeah, so there's the Terra. Okay, what is the Terra type? Steel. Now you're weak to Torkoal, which I can leverage. It's fine. I'm mainly curious what Palafin's going to accomplish here. Just +1 Ice Beam, Life Orb. Still really solid damage, honestly. I'll take it. They just Dragon Claw, that's fine. We survive. Nice. And they Haze, that's fine. Haze is fine. I don't think you'll actually have another move to go for right now. And it's 2 turns of Trick Room left at the moment. But now that you're Steel typing, I can just Earth Power you. So let us just Heal Pulse and... Oh, I don't have Earth Power. Keep forgetting about that. Okay, given that, I'm fine with the Surf plus Ice Beam combo here. I really don't want to lose to a Muddy Water Miss. Yeah, and Palafin really should be completely walled by Gastrodon here. Okay, they switch. Bringing in Indeedee makes a lot of sense, but it's Armor Rouge. Okay. Let's see if Salamence protects here. It does not. Beautiful. Oh, but I'm going to activate Weakness Policy. Wait. Muddy Water there would have won me the game if I double hit. I think it's still fine, right? Should be okay. Especially with Torkoal in the back. I don't know, though. If there's any Pokemon that can clean through my team, a +2 Armarouge is pretty scary. Do I really care about Palafin in hero form? I don't think I'm that worried about it. Last turn of Trick Room. I'm down to Heal Pulse. The interesting debate is whether or not I also click Recover. I think I'm fine Heal Pulse Muddy Water here. They've also, like, been very aggressive in not protecting. But there's finally a Protect. Yeah, I mean, I think... I don't know the rest of Armarouge's moves, but... Torkoal's also decently positioned for this endgame, and I really don't know what Palafin can do right now. Because Palafin, like, normally uses just so many water-type attacks, right? Accuracy drop is quite lucky. What are you going for, Haze? They literally don't have anything to go for. Yeah, I think, like, bringing Palafin into a Gastrodon matchup is really risky specifically because of this reason. I'm going to Trick Room now. Palafin will always move first. They pretty much have to KO Gastrodon. And Muddy Water. I think the only thing here that I don't know is whether or not they have Wide Guard on Armarouge. If I had Protect on Gastro here, this would always be a win, but we don't have Protect. I wonder if I clicked Recover last turn, whether or not I could have won as well. But I get Trick Room up again, which is the most important part of all of this. If they Wave Crash, they end up activating Weakness Policy, and I can heal back up. The Choice Band Wave Crash shouldn't KO Torkoal either way. I don't think they have Wide Guard on this, but I don't know for sure. This is where, like, if I had knowledge of the team and remember the set, like, if I knew it didn't have Wide Guard, I'd just always click Surf plus Eruption. But without knowing, I'm actually a little bit worried right now. I'm actually content to just Surf and Protect here to scout out for what Armarouge wants to go for. I guess they could double up theoretically onto Slowpoke this turn. Okay, they do have Wide Guard. I am very glad I scouted for that. Oh, okay, good. It does waste the turn in my Trick Room, but yeah, just confirming they have that is a big deal. Okay. And then Wave Crash, presumably, onto Torkoal. Yeah. So that would activate my Weakness Policy. I'm okay just clicking Surf into Earth Power here. And maybe a bit was better to target Palafin, but, like, there's the world in which Armarouge is like, you know what? I'm just going to attack. They go for Wide Guard, that's fine. I should survive Wave Crash here with the sun being up, right? And I went for Surf here just to guarantee the policy, guarantee the knockout onto Armarouge, because as long as Torkoal survives, I can just heal back up. I guess the fear here is, like, I'm in Jet Punch KO range. That could actually be kind of scary. I don't know if I actually sequenced this end game correctly. I feel like it should have been a guaranteed win, and the fact that I'm at potential risk of losing right now is not a good sign. Given that I had Gastrodon. But I didn't want to switch Gastrodon out earlier, because then Torkoal may have just fainted. I needed to force them to KO Gastro. So use Wave Crash. Okay, yeah, we're fine. Even Jet Punch here shouldn't KO us. Just double checking the field state. 2 turns of Trick Room. So, we Heal Pulse, and we Earth Power. Beautiful. And that should be game over. Yeah, I always like fighting against Palafin with this team because if I bring Gastrodon, it just really completely invalidates Palafin because so many Palafins are just like triple water type attack plus haze right now, right? And so they were kind of locked into a tough spot when I had Gastrodon out against it. But yeah, I think the main thing in this game was that they didn't really pressure me against Trick Room, and you can now... I'm glad, like, we ended up featuring Slowpoke enabling Torkoal as well as Gastrodon, and Gastrodon was so nice as an offensive option here, and part of the reason it exists on the team is because, like, yeah, Torkoal struggles a little bit against things like Garchomp, for example, whereas Gastrodon was just so primed for success in this one. So I'm very glad ADD Armourouge as a lead didn't come out, because that lead always really scares me when I use this team. And like, yeah, like the answer against it is Dark Terror Hariyama to try to get around things. But if it's like Psychic Seed NED, it's still tricky because Knockoff just doesn't KO NED. They can start pressuring me with Armor Cannon with damage on turn 2, so it still gets a little bit dicey. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. Hopefully it has opened your eyes to the power of Slowpoke, not only as a Trick Room setter, but also as an enabler for Pokemon like Torkoal, Arboliva, and Gastrodon. So thank you so much as always for watching. Thank you to Viking VGC for the team. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, we really appreciate it if you'd leave a like on the video, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.